Good evening. I will be demonstrating a vertical mattress suture this evening. I would go ahead and to start with, the reason why we do vertical mattress sutures is for wounds with higher tension areas, wounds that require a little bit more of a solid approximation, and maybe a wound that's larger that we may suspect would open up later on if not closed properly. And also for fragile skin or fragile tissue. So we would want to start with a far, near technique, but prior to doing our suturing, we would go ahead and introduce ourselves to the patient, let them know what we're going to be doing, wash our hands. We would go ahead and irrigate the wound and make sure that it's free of any debris or tissue or sediment in there. And then we would go ahead and cleanse the wound very well. Anesthetize the wound bed a little bit deeper and a little bit more superficially, since we are doing a deeper and a superficial closure. And then we would go ahead and get started. Not the whole entire wound bed would need to be the vertical mattress sutures, unless we were suspecting, based on where it is on the body, that it would be a high risk of the wound unapproximating or dehiscing. So we would go ahead and we would start with, after we had anesthetized our wound bed, we would re-prep, and then we would go ahead and drape our wound bed, and we would don sterile gloves. I do have my supplies here of my needle driver, my tissue forceps, and my scissor. And then just for visualization purposes, I'm going to use a pretty dark black braided suture, but I normally would not choose that type of a suture depending on what area of the body we are suturing. Oops. So getting started, I would go ahead and load my needle. Oops, using my forceps. Lock that needle in place. And we are going to start at a more aggressive depth, and we are going to go out quite a ways on the wound bed. Needle driver is a little sticky. So first we're going to start by looking at our wound bed, checking our depth, and we are going to want to go about, this so I can see better, about 4 to 8 millimeters up, and probably about half of a centimeter out on that wound bed. We're going to go deep, and we're going to release our needle driver. We'll pull our suture so that we have, just enough tail to tie, but not enough that we are going to pull out the suture. We'll relock, and then we will come in at the same depth, relatively the same distance out in the wound bed. And we want to try and give ourselves enough room to come in with that near suture. So this would be our far suture, and we're going to come back in shortly with our near suture. This gives us a deeper approximation on the wound with the deeper suture, and then, and then more of an approximation of the wound and closure of the wound with the near suturing. So now we're going to come in at the same location, but a more shallow depth for the near suture. And the whole idea is to leave enough, go out wide enough to be able to get and we want to kind of reverse load, get your suture out there for your deep, and then come in with enough and leave enough depth there to put in that shallow suture. So we'll come in with that, and we will go ahead and pull our wound bed closed, taking special attention not to close too aggressively to risk strangulation of that tissue. So then we will do our 3 twists, 3 pulls through, grasp our tail, and come through. There we are. 1, 2. And 4. Then we're going to go ahead and cut our ends just long enough so that we can go ahead and get in there later to cut those if need be after wound healing has happened. So we're going to go ahead and do another one just for demonstration purposes in the middle of the wound, and then we will be done with this video. So we're going to try and come out at the same depth as the previous suture for continuity and, you know, so that the sutures all look uniform. Coming through with that bite. Picked, reloading. And coming through on the other side at a similar depth and width for uniformity. There we go. Now we are going to go ahead and reverse load so we can come back in there. 2 foot down with our near suture. And we're going to go ahead and get a grasp on the tissue. Come in. Detach there. Not ideally do that, but it got stuck on the suture. Reload. And come in that near fashion again to approximate those wound edges. Nicely. And once again, taking special consideration to not come in too aggressively, to risk strangulating those wound edges and causing necrotic tissue. So we're going to go ahead with that knot. There we go. Come around once. Twice. And 4. And of course the suture is really thick, very dark, so it makes things look very bulky. But there you have the 2 vertical mattress sutures.